The world of 2025 is unrecognizable, transformed in ways few could have predicted just a decade ago. The pace of change has accelerated, reshaping not only the physical landscapes of our cities, but also the invisible networks of influence that connect nations. Technology, climate, and shifting demographics have all played their part, but at the heart of this transformation lies a dramatic rebalancing of global power. From the bustling streets of New York to the rapidly expanding skylines of Lagos and Shanghai, the world's centers of gravity have shifted. What once seemed permanent now feels fragile, as new players rise and old certainties fade. The era of American dominance is over, power is now dispersed and influence is up for grabs. No single nation can dictate the rules, and the competition for leadership is fiercer than ever before. The post-World War II order built on U.S. leadership and a shared vision of stability is fracturing. Institutions that once seemed unshakable now struggle to adapt to a world where alliances are tested and loyalties shift. The United States, under President Trump's second term, has turned inward, prioritizing domestic concerns and stepping back from its traditional role as global leader. This retreat has left a vacuum on the world stage, one that other nations are eager to fill. China has stepped in, eager to fill that void and project stability. With bold investments and a clear vision for its place in the world, China is reshaping international relationships and challenging the old order. Nowhere is this contest more visible than in Africa, a continent once overlooked by the great powers, now central to the future of global leadership. Africa's cities are booming, its economies are growing, and its leaders are courted by East and West alike. Africa's youth, resources, and 54 nations make it a powerful bloc. With the world's youngest population and vast untapped potential, Africa stands poised to shape the next chapter of the global story. As America retreats, China advances with investment, trade, and diplomacy. Roads, railways, and digital networks now crisscross the continent, linking African cities to Beijing and beyond. This isn't just about economics, it's about rewriting the rules of global power. The deals being struck today will determine who sets the agenda tomorrow and whose values shape the world's future. Old alliances are uncertain, and new winners and losers are emerging. The familiar faces of global leadership are being joined and sometimes replaced by new voices demanding a seat at the table. The world is watching as Africa becomes the proving ground for a new global order. Every decision, every partnership, and every investment is scrutinized as nations vie for influence and opportunity. The story of 2025 is the story of this seismic shift, one that will echo for generations. As the sands of power continue to shift, the choices made today will shape not only the fate of nations, but the very future of the world itself. America's global retreat is the result of deliberate choices in Washington. The America First doctrine has made U.S. foreign policy unpredictable and transactional, shaking the trust of allies and emboldening rivals. Aggressive tariffs, 34% on Chinese imports, up to 39% on others, have disrupted global supply chains and alienated partners. Diplomacy has shifted too. The U.S. has scaled back its advocacy for democracy and human rights, and its alliances now feel conditional. The result? America stands increasingly alone, isolated by its own policies. New trade deals with select allies can't mask the broader trend of divergence. The world is learning to operate without American leadership, and sometimes in spite of it. Into this vacuum, China steps confidently. The global balance of power is being rewritten. As America looks inward, China is executing a bold, calculated strategy in Africa. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing is financing railways, ports, and power plants, embedding itself in Africa's economic future. These projects aren't just promises, they're jobs, trade, and visible progress. China's approach is pragmatic, loans for infrastructure, not lectures on governance. Tech giants like Huawei are wiring Africa's digital backbone, giving Beijing influence over the continent's future. China's model of digital governance and surveillance is spreading, appealing to leaders seeking stability. This is more than resource extraction. It's about building a new sphere of influence. By becoming Africa's indispensable partner, China is gaining allies and shaping global norms. The dragon's embrace is a long-term bet on a world where Beijing leads. African leaders are weary of Western partnerships that come with strings attached and lectures on democracy. China offers something different: non-interference, respect for sovereignty, and a focus on business. Beijing's no-strings approach is appealing to governments eager to chart their own course. The results are tangible: new highways, hospitals, and power grids that citizens can see and use. In contrast, Western aid often feels abstract or conditional. For leaders needing quick wins, China's model delivers. The pivot to Beijing is about dignity, sovereignty, and practical results. African leaders see China as an equal, focused on shared growth, not political reform. This perception, combined with rapid project delivery, makes China the partner of choice. Africa's growing alignment with China marks a profound shift in the global order, signaling not just the end of U.S. dominance, but the dawn of a new era in international relations. As the world transitions toward a multipolar system, Africa stands at the crossroads, emerging as a bellwether for how developing nations can assert themselves amid great power rivalry. The continent's choices are now shaping the rules of engagement for the 21st century. African countries are forging new alliances and forming regional blocs, demonstrating a growing unity and strategic vision that was rarely seen in previous decades. They are increasingly voting together in the United Nations, amplifying their collective voice on the world stage and influencing key decisions that affect global security, trade, and development. By building regional institutions that are less dependent on Western powers, African nations are gaining leverage in global negotiations. Their partnership with China is not just about aid or investment, it's about reshaping the balance of power. The old East versus West narrative is fading fast. Africa is now emerging as a third force, a dynamic player with its own agenda and priorities. Practicing a strategy of multi-alignment, African leaders are skillfully engaging with both East and West to maximize their nation's interests, rather than choosing sides. This new approach forces the U.S. to compete for African loyalty, while China must tread carefully to avoid overreach and maintain trust. Africa is no longer a passive recipient of foreign influence. It's actively shaping its own destiny, driven by a new generation of entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders determined to chart a brighter future. Africa's influence is growing, and its decisions will help define the world's future. The message is unmistakable. Africa is now an active, indispensable force in global politics, setting trends and shaping debates that reach far beyond its borders. The world must adapt to this new reality, recognizing Africa's pivotal role in the evolving global landscape. The U.S.-China trade war has hit Africa hard, exposing the continent to economic shockwaves that few saw coming. As the world's two largest economies clash, the ripple effects have reached far beyond their borders, landing squarely in African markets and communities. Everyday life for millions has been disrupted, with uncertainty clouding the future for businesses and workers alike. Tariffs targeting countries like South Africa have slashed exports and revenue, punishing economies for problems they didn't create. Factories have slowed production or shut down entirely, and exporters face mounting obstacles as global demand shifts. The loss of vital trade income has put pressure on governments to find new solutions, while families struggle to make ends meet. For fragile nations, these shocks mean job losses and stalled development. Young people searching for work are met with closed doors, and entire communities feel the strain as opportunities dry up. The promise of progress is put on hold, threatening to reverse years of hard-won gains. While Washington builds barriers, Beijing builds bridges, buying more African goods and investing in local industries. Chinese companies are stepping in where others have pulled back, offering new markets and much-needed capital for growth. China's support helps African economies become more resilient and less dependent on raw exports. By investing in manufacturing and technology, China is helping African businesses move up the value chain, creating jobs and fostering innovation. The contrast is stark. America's trade war isolates, while China's strategy integrates. As the U.S. pulls away, China is forging deeper connections, reshaping Africa's economic landscape in the process. African nations are moving deeper into China's economic orbit, seeking stability and growth. Leaders are forging new partnerships, hoping to secure a brighter future for their people. The trade war, meant to isolate China, has instead strengthened its ties with the developing world. Africa is now a key player in this shifting global order, with new opportunities and challenges ahead. Africa is determined to diversify its partnerships and control its own economic fate. As the world changes, the continent is charting its own course, one shaped by resilience, ambition, and a vision for shared prosperity. The US and China are vying for Africa's future, but their offers couldn't be more different. America's approach is rooted in values, aid, security, and trade, but with conditions on democracy and reform. China's pitch is pragmatic: infrastructure, investment, and rapid development, with no political strings attached. For many African leaders, the choice is clear: concrete results over abstract ideals. America's inconsistent policies and inward focus have made its vision less compelling. China's model of state-led growth resonates with leaders and citizens hungry for progress. The competition is shaping Africa's future, and by extension, the world's. China is winning friends not just with money, but with a vision that matches Africa's priorities. The continent's path will define the next era of global power. America's internal divisions have crippled its global leadership. Political polarization and social unrest dominate the national agenda, leaving little energy for foreign policy. Allies and rivals see a distracted, unstable superpower. Domestic crises, from immigration crackdowns to political purges, erode America's credibility abroad. The administration's focus is almost entirely inward, making foreign aid and global commitments unpopular. Diplomatic resources are stretched thin, and long-term strategy is sacrificed for short-term politics. A divided nation struggles to lead the world. Into this void, other powers are rising. For ordinary Africans, China's presence is visible and transformative. New roads, power plants, and jobs. Many see the partnership as mutually beneficial, with immediate improvements outweighing concerns about debt or influence. In contrast, Western aid is often remembered for its conditions and unfulfilled promises. The sentiment is pragmatic. China delivers what's needed now. In the US, most people are focused on domestic issues: cost of living, political division, and immigration. Competing with China in Africa feels remote and irrelevant to daily life. There's little appetite for ambitious foreign engagement. This disconnect between strategic needs and public priorities is why the US is losing ground. The New World Order is being shaped far from American headlines.